You are listening to the Mindset Forge podcast. While the podcast is on a break for the next few weeks, I'm bringing one of the old episodes from Season 1, a good friend of mine from Austin, Texas, Jonathan Parr. He is currently a physical therapist with Parr PT, but back when he was in his 20s, he was one of the American Ninja Warrior finalists, and he went all the way to Las Vegas. He talks about all the aspects of being on that show, the mindset around those competitions, the events, obviously the big challenges, those things that he ran into that he had to overcome, and all of it. It's fantastic. But then he also gets into why he became a physical therapist, some of the lessons he learned, some of the things that he saw from his sister going to physical therapy school, and what he does now, specifically helping people with neuro issues. This is one of my favorite episodes. He's a great human being. And check out more about Jonathan by jumping in the show notes and clicking on parrpt.com. Buckle up, my good friend, Jonathan Parr. I'm so excited about this interview, man. We've got so much to talk about. American Ninja Warrior, so much to go into, and then physical therapy and your work right now. But I mean, give the listeners what they came to hear. Talk to us about American Ninja Warrior and some of those really cool experiences or stories that you went through.
Yeah, so I started back in, I think it was 2013, season 5. So I competed all the way from season 5, 6 straight seasons, all the way to season 10. So it started off where actually a patient of mine had dared me to submit to this show, and I had no idea what the show was. And he's like, "Oh, you do all this crazy stuff. Why don't you try it?" So I sent like the most generic video thinking that I was like some big stud, like doing one arm push up when these guys are doing like triple backflips. And that got me to Denver. And going to Denver, I didn't really know what to expect. And as soon as I got there, I realized that there was all these crazy obstacles. There was professional athletes that were there. I'm like, okay, this is bigger than what I thought it was going to be. So me just not really understanding much of it, I kind of go through and, fast speed, on the show, you like to take your time and go into all these different, thoughts and where I just ran through and I made it all to the end, but I was so gassed that I had no energy to get up the wall. So I went my 3 times and then they just counted me out. So that first experience of realizing that it was a lot harder than I thought made me kind of move forward into developing more of that desire, like, oh, now I got to come back and do more now that I experienced it. So it was a slap in the face as soon as I got there, but it was pretty funny, my first experience.
Well, what an opportunity to test your just ability level, of course, but also just your mindset. Like, can you, in that intense competition, do these obstacles you've never seen before, have the endurance to get all the way through it? Talk about maybe one of the most difficult experiences you went through and something you were able to overcome or kind of, champion at one point.
Yeah, so it was my 3rd season. So the first season I had, I failed at the wall. The second season, I was already done with the 5th obstacle. And I was so excited that when I did my dismount, I completely messed it up and fell back into the water. So that 3rd season, I'm thinking, I'm going to get up this wall and I'm going to, try to go to Vegas and whatever. But the problem was in Houston, the humidity was so bad that all the obstacles were soaking wet. So I get to this obstacle, it's the 4th obstacle, and it's some trapeze thing with a net, and you have to climb across, and when I grab the bar, my hands aren't very big, so the tube itself was large, and so I couldn't get a grip because it was soaked. So I'm sitting there thinking, I can't go down for the 3rd straight year. So I'm wiping my hands, but I'm almost sliding off. I'm like, you know what? At this point, I just got to give it all I got. So I'm swinging back and forth, praying that my hand doesn't peel off with a little bit of dryness that I had on my hands. And then when I flung myself, I literally catch it with the tips of my fingers. And you can see it on the video when they show it. That's how I caught it. I barely made it. And after that, I was like, all right, now we're ready to go. So after that drove me into the 5th obstacle, got past that, and finally got my first buzzer in season 7.
What a triumph. So you're gripping this thing. You're feeling like, oh my gosh, there's so much humidity. I'm going to slip off. But you're like, I can't do it. I can't fail this time. Like, I've got to get through it. So is that the time, 3rd season, you made it to Las Vegas?
Yes, that was. And actually, when you listen to the guys, they're saying, oh no, he might slip off because he keeps wiping his hands. And I don't think people really understood. Like, it was just, imagine just pouring a water hose on a piece of pipe and trying to swing from it. So so after that point, I just had so much desire that there was absolutely nothing that was going to stop me from catching that bar, even with my fingertips. And once I got to the wall, I hung on there and I looked at everyone, like, once I caught the top, and kicking my feet and dancing once I got up and hit the buzzer. And at that point I knew, I was like, this opportunity only comes like once in a lifetime for people to even pass the first round. And I'm thinking, there's no way I'm not going to go to Vegas. So then that next day is when I went into the qualifying and fell actually on the 6th or 7th obstacle where most of the competitors fell. I just happened to be the top 15, literally the number 15. So the last competitor who was actually up was a real well-known ninja named Evan Dollar. He used to be on American Gladiators. And I'm like, all right, this guy's going to knock me out. I'm all this time that I've spent 9 months training, and then he falls on an obstacle that no one thought that he was going to fall on. And then that's what got me to Vegas. And so from there, it was a straight shot to Vegas where I took on one of the hardest obstacle courses in the world.
So before we get to Vegas, talk to us about just how you experienced or how you attacked the competition itself, obstacle by obstacle, and what your mindset was there.
Yeah, so my mindset was, especially even going into the first qualifying. So you have qualifying, city finals, and you have Vegas. So qualifying, I understood that mental lapse is what made me fall in the previous season, just because I wasn't paying attention to exactly where my body was. And I felt almost rushed that maybe I would have gotten tired. So I was thinking all these negative thoughts about what could happen, but not what was actually happening. And I got to the point that before I got on the obstacle course, I would actually do the obstacle course in my head, and I would do it 1,000 times. And while you're waiting, you basically know where your left hand is going to go, which part of the obstacle you're going to touch with, left arm, right arm, how you're going to swing. If you get caught, how do you swing out of it? So for me on each one, and the ones that I can honestly say that I've fallen on, I've actually lost that thought process of what I would have done because of either time standpoint or the circumstances of being like, well, I have to be here at a certain time in order to beat this guy that is in front of me. So being in the moment and being in tune and have enough time to breathe and really calm that your heart rate really makes a big difference on how you perceive and receive that information from that obstacle or each obstacle.
So if you were asked whether or not you wanted to go first in an obstacle course or last, which would you choose?
First. Because there's such a big group and there's usually over 100 competitors that are watching. So if you're the first one, a lot of times you really don't know what to expect. So you're just going at it and you're not as nervous. Whereas once you see people fall, and especially good competitors fall, it starts to psych you out as if your skill set is the same as theirs. Going first lets you stay focused on the plan that you have versus basing your plan on what someone else did that wasn't as successful. That's probably one of the biggest things I took from Ninja Warrior is how your mindset is, because there's plenty of guys, since we compete with so many professional athletes, what is their mindset versus ours, and what makes us more successful in that position is that we understand and we're able to really zone in and tune in on what's in front of us without being fearful. Because you are hanging about 20 feet up in the air, so you kind of have to throw that stuff out the window, along with what you see the cameras. You see the water, and they specifically shine that light in the water so you don't miss that. If you fall, you're going to go in the water. So having all those factors, it makes it really important that you have to be able to focus in and really tune out everything that's around you in order for you to be successful.
That makes sense. Mm-hmm. Tell us about your background in athletics before American Ninja Warrior, kind of how you were kind of uniquely skilled for what you talked about, kind of you didn't really think you were going to be able to compete, but you clearly had the aptitude to do so. Like, what was that skill set that you had? And then also talk to us about, of course, Las Vegas, like the big moment.
So growing up, my dad was military, and our field trips, I always laugh, I always tell people the same story, that our field trips were basically boot camp. And while other people went to the museum, we would actually go to an actual camp and wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and do PT, and like we're fifth graders and we're doing all this rope courses and all this rappelling and but that was the norm for us. That's all we knew. So it was a bunch of fun. So those skills of being able to adapt to different, I guess I would say, obstacles, like whether it's ropes, whether it's climbing stuff, we already had those skills as a kid. And once I got to Ninja Warrior, I just felt like this is literally the stuff I used to play on when I was a kid. Now, a little bit higher up, and the difficulty was a little bit different, but I guess I was more comfortable with it, and it didn't seem that scary because I had already done it so many times in the past. And because I was used to more body weight, I wasn't a lifter, I was a runner. Push-ups, pull-ups, that's the only exercise we really did growing up as kids. And so that really translated into that calisthenic portion of Ninja Warrior, having good grip strength and having good body awareness. And, my background with sports, I'm a strength and conditioning coach and exercise physiologist, so I already had those degrees before I got in, so I understood the biomechanical movements of, the shoulder and the hip and the knee and the ankle. And so analyzing the course, you realize, okay, well, I have to be able to spread my legs out into the spider jump or spider wall. I have to have enough internal rotation in order to get there. So I prepped those things beforehand, even though I had never done it. I was preparing the mobility components that were associated with these obstacles. So it was cool having the stuff I had when I was a kid, but the stuff I knew from an education background, and just applying it together until it basically got me to Vegas. And people don't know, we shoot that in the summer. So at night, it's still 100 degrees and it looks nice and breezy, but that's hot air. Like, it's hot air in your face. You're breathing in the sand, the dust. So as soon as you get on, it's like, all right, ready, set, go. And it's time. So you have to basically run as fast as you can through obstacles that are even harder than what they are in the city finals, in a way that you're still being efficient and strategic as you complete. I think it's like 2.5 minutes or something like that. Sometimes it changes every year, but being out there under the big lights, and you have the whole skyline of Vegas in the background, you're like, all right, this is really it. So for me, as soon as I got past the first obstacle, that's what everyone says, just don't fall on the first obstacle. Like, you didn't go this entire way to fall on things that you jump from side to side. And there are people that it's happened. Like, there's people that it just got in their head so much, they freaked out and they just messed up, and they're like, wow, I flew to Vegas for 4 seconds of an obstacle. Luckily, I passed that. Once you pass that, you kind of get in the zone, but then it's more speed-based or speed-friendly, so you're able to jump on things, release things, go. And I got to the point that at the time, the spider jump was the hardest thing, where you basically hit this trampoline and spread your arms and legs out to the side and pin yourself against this wall. And me, I'm pushing 5'6", and I'm like, all right, let's see if I can even get my arms and legs out that far. And I just went in and I just jumped in, and as soon as I hit it, my left foot slipped, and I put every muscle contraction into just me pinning against the wall, and I stuck it. And I was like, all right, cool. I got through, but I was so excited that adrenaline made me tired by the time I got off. And then on that next obstacle, I was like, all right, well, there's some sort of curving ramp to jump to a rope, and I got a little anxious because I was worried about the time, and I ran as fast as I could. And as I went to jump, I actually missed the step to tack off to grab a rope, and I just basically belly flopped straight into the water, and that was it. So it was an awesome experience. I'll never take it back as far as what happened, just because it was just cool to be there. Because when you really think about it, 600 athletes try, and only 90 make it to Vegas. So I was happy to be one of those people to actually make it past that spider jump, because that was killing everyone left and right.
To be in Vegas, that's the show, right? I mean, that is literally the show. You made it to the show. You got a chance, got to that first obstacle. I know exactly what you're talking about. And so many people fall on the spider wall, and you're right. It's the mobility. They may have leg length. They may be taller than you, but they don't have that rotation of the hips. They can't lock it in. And I've seen so many great athletes fall in that one moment right there. I loved how you told that story. So there are a lot of American Ninja Warrior hopefuls out there, kids. My son is one of them. What's some advice you'd give them, just in just the everyday preparations of like, hey, you want one day to be able to, to be on American Ninja Warrior. What should they be doing? What kind of exercises should they work on?
Yeah, when it comes to exercises, there's so many different things that you can target. I mean, there's so many people that they stick to one thing, but they're not as successful. You have to really cross-train. So, one of your days you can do rock climbing, working on grip strength. Next day you can be doing gymnastics, tumbling or working on air awareness, where you are in space. It's really important, especially where you're throwing your body, 8 feet from bar to bar, and making sure that you can time it the right way, catch it the right way. Training goes as far as even balance. There's a lot of meditation that's involved, just being able to just be in positions that feel uncomfortable. So targeting workouts that make you feel like you're so tired you can't hold on, and then holding on for another 30 seconds. Because when you get out there, it's going to feel like that really quick because of all the adrenaline that's running through. So things that really incorporate mobility, balance, and just overall spatial awareness is really, really good for Ninja Warrior, because you don't have to be the strongest guy. You just have to know how to be efficient and move through things without fatiguing your body. There's people that, big guys that hang on obstacle for a minute and they're already gassed, but if you can get through the obstacle in 15 seconds, it's better. So I don't know. I like a lot of like the things that kids do. If you can train like a kid, you can perform like a elite athlete.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of big, strong dudes and ladies get up there and just burn out real quick from forearm burn and all that kind of stuff, and just not having it's like a strength to weight ratio. Like if you're 200 pounds, you have to be so dang strong in your grip strength to be able to pull it off. Whereas if you're 120, 130, it's a different deal.
And actually, I have a friend who, shout out to Jody Avila. He is 6'6", and I think he's up in the 190s or low 200s, but he is a monster. And his training, like you would think when you look at him, there's no way that he can hang on, but there's a lot of people nowadays that are bigger, that have trained so specific to Ninja Warrior that they look as if they're 120 pounds the way they move. So it's such a cool thing to see someone so big move through so smooth, whereas, people a little bit small, they still can't even move through. So now the sport is a lot different. It's changed a lot. Even going back to what you said about what type of things do you train for, you have to train for the unexpected. Like you have to train things that spin. They curve one way or the other, or do they drop? Is it bungees? Is it hard? It's so many of the unknowns that you're not sure when you grab it. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if it's going to drop. You don't know if it's going to turn. So most of the ninjas will tell you they make things like 10 times harder than what it would be on the show, just so they can be prepared for what's to come. Because you never know. I mean, they're really good at tricking you into obstacles that look easy and they're really not.
Yeah. Like some spinning knob that you get to the top of the beam and it's like, yeah. So before we move on, is there a comeback?
Yeah. As far as the comeback, I don't plan on it, man. Those 6 years knocked me out. I mean, there's just so much training involved, and when you really want to compete at a high level, I mean, you train for 9 months that could be only 30 seconds of obstacle, and I love the sport. I still do it. I don't do it at a competitive level for the show. I still would love to support all my friends that are actually doing the show. I just would rather work with people who need to prepare for the show versus me actually compete. I think for me that chapter is already done. So I just love to be able to stay in the community and be rather than the athlete, be the PT ninja, and helping all the people with their what they call their ninjuries.
I love that. Yeah. And at some point, even the great basketball players, football players, they probably need to retire and become coaches and pass on their experience and knowledge in a different way. So, all right. So tell us about your work as a physical therapist. Parr PT, this is your company. What types of clients do you work with, and kind of what's your why behind becoming a physical therapist? Like, how did that happen for you, and why do you do what you do?
Yeah, so Parr PT, performance and restorative rehab. It was the idea of taking my background with sports performance and the really low level chronic illness, more complex conditions where you have to go more in a restorative approach because their timeline of recovery is so much longer. So you have to think a little bit different. So what I've done over the last 12 years is put programs together that are specific to performance and restorative rehab, but as a way to really target anyone, whether you're an athlete or someone who's had a brain injury. My why is because of what happened to my sister when she was 21. So she has 4.5 years on me, and she had a neurological condition that was really unknown. People couldn't figure it out. And watching her rehab process was really inspiring because I didn't really know what that really entailed, like what rehab really consisted of. Like, as a kid, you see people in wheelchairs and you see people on crutches and walkers, and you don't really know what they go through to get to that point. And to see it firsthand from a family member, I was blown away. Like, whoa, this is way different than what I was expecting. And I've always had a love for sports and athletic training, and I knew I wanted to do something related to health, but that just pushed me over the edge of really focusing on like, okay, I can help more people like my sister. And I just wanted to learn more about it. Like, I didn't know where I was going to go with it. I just wanted to go for it and see what direction it took me, because I wasn't even sure if I was going to be good at that specific thing that she had. That's what got me into it, and that's what still kind of drives me into just creating this mindset of no excuses. Like, I've seen so many patients and people accomplish such big things with basically the doctor saying, hey, you're probably never going to do this again. and seeing them basically defy all odds, it's like, all right, I want to get into that field. And that's what I do really on a daily basis.
So you and I get to train together at Tiger ATX sometimes, and I've watched you train a young man named Ian. And I got to have a conversation with Ian's mom before this interview to kind of find out a little bit more about Ian and get his blessing on sharing some about Ian. He's an amazing guy. We share a love for the Los Angeles Lakers. I don't think there is more of a super fan than Ian. And it's just amazing to see him, talk about it, get fired up. Tell us about Ian, a little bit about his story and how you're working with Ian and kind of what he's been able to kind of overcome in his life with his brain injury and what he's doing now at almost 30 years old.
So the story is when he was 9 years old, him and his family, they were on top of a mountain just overseeing, the views of Colorado, where he was struck by lightning. And I can't even imagine what that would be, for a parent and what that does to the child. Me understanding more about what happens in cases like that. They have something called an anoxic brain injury, where that oxygen is depleted from certain sections of the brain, and that causes damage, and then that results in physical impairments. I met Ian when he was 29, so I met him 20 years later. So I didn't know much about what he went through before from a physical standpoint. I just understand kind of the general terminology that's used of what he's able to do and what he can't do, and a lot of it, like functionally, he has someone help him with almost everything. Whether it's, showering or making food because his arm's compromised and he can't actually grip onto things, or having someone speak for you, which you wouldn't really think about is a functional deficit. But imagine someone having to translate words for you just because you can't fully express yourself based on the way your mouth moves and the way your tongue moves. And, as you grow older and, from a social standpoint, what that does to Ian, just from a confidence standpoint. With the physical impairments, which is usually what I treat a lot more of the physical impairments, him having multiple falls, compromised positions of his bones where they have to fuse them based on the muscle tone that he has in his body. There's things that will cause a muscle to spasm more consistently, so that'll cause tightness and inability to reach or to move the leg. I mean, it's kind of like a snowball effect, right? And so my job as a therapist is to basically unwind those things. Like, how can I get him functional? And, working with him in the beginning, he's a tough cookie because, here's me, I'm the no BS, like, hey, let's go 0 to 100. And he's like, whoa, I'm not used to this, because most therapies are very slow and they're calming, they're white walls, where here it's a gym. Like, we're here to work out, we're ready to get everything going. And you can tell that kind of man-to-man relationship really toughened him up a little bit more and made him desire to want to get better, because he had already been through so many different things. And just seeing the progress, I don't even think it's been a year yet. And from someone who used to fall all the time and not be able to walk, he used to do kind of like the shuffle walking, where you would imagine a geriatric person doing, right? But he's only 30, so now he's able to walk more smooth. He's able to pick up objects. Actually, he's picking up like 18-pound medicine balls, whereas before he couldn't carry his own plate, kind of thing. So you're looking at the gains from things that we take for granted at home, of pressing a button on a remote control or getting a cut from the cupboard. And these are people that can't do that. And so when they come to me, I get them to be able to do that plus more. And it's cool to see it now because he's made so much progress. I'm like, okay, now you carrying a cup isn't the problem. Now let's get you boxes. Let's get you to get down on the floor and pop back up without using your hands much. So that whole process has been cool, because neurologically, based on his injury, he shouldn't be able to do any of that.
Yeah, and talking to his mom, she spoke obviously very highly of you, but one of the things she said is that, just like you mentioned a few minutes ago, the moment that he started training with you, like you ratcheted up the intensity, and he could not, after leaving a session with you, go and do a bunch of activities. Like, he needed to go take a nap. But what she noticed was so many things started to get better. And she'd been taking him to physical therapists for 20 years in a very slow process, and people feeling like they couldn't do anything more for him, like they had reached their limit of ability. He'd plateau out, and they'd kind of say, hey, sorry, I don't know what else to do. And so she just spoke about that relationship with him and how you have such high expectations on him, and really ask him to meet those expectations on the workout. And they drive an hour and 20 minutes to get to you, once a week to get that type of care. And so tell me just your relationship with Ian. What have you done to help build that relationship and that camaraderie with him, to help that relationship so that you can ask so much from him?
I think Ian and I's relationship, it's really funny because between him arguing with me back and forth with things he doesn't want to do, but deep down inside I know he wants to do it. So that's one. I think it's more of making him feel loose and making him feel comfortable, not being so strict, and using, I like music. I like to use the tools around me, and I don't like to do what they call the sit and be fit. I want to get him up and challenge him. And I think that was the biggest thing is I told him, I'm not going to have you do things that you did before. I believe that you can do more, and I'm going to push you until you achieve that goal. Do you trust me? And during that time, when you get with a new patient, you have to develop that trust. Like, if he's at risk for falls, if he falls, do I catch him? And I think that's the biggest part of him feeling safe enough to put himself out there at an extreme standpoint. Like, look, I'm probably going to die if I do this, but I know he's got my back. I know he's going to save me. I think that's what really helped turn a lot of his comfort with trusting me from what we do in the gym and the exercises that I give him. But I also think relating to him, like, it's not all PT. Like, in between resting, we're having normal conversations that he would have with his buddy. And there's times afterwards, I'm like, hey, let's just hang out afterwards and just talk about random stuff. And so I feel like once you develop that good rapport and that just relationship with the patient, it's no longer, he doesn't really see me as a therapist, so to speak. It's more of like, oh, I know that my friend Jonathan, I train with him. And I think once you get to that level, that's really what helps really anyone trust you and do a lot of the stuff that I have him do that he probably wouldn't do with anyone else. But, and I also think starting off with, because you have to have some sort of comfort and compassion with people, but also be able to joke around. And I think that healthy balance has made him understand me as a person, not just a therapist. But I'm not here for $1. I'm here to get you better. You're my family now, and that's how I treat every person that comes in. That's something my mom always told me. She said, every person who comes in, treat him like your sister, your mom, your dad. So she's the one to put me in. So that's the route I take, not just with Ian, it's with everyone. I think that's helped me along the way develop really good relationships with patients.
Clarify for us, in your practice, like, how do you separate yourself from other physical therapy offices? Like, what are some things that you're doing? What are some focuses you have that might be different from just a general physical therapist?
I would say the number one thing that makes us different is that how we approach the person. So I like using a lot of different visual stimulus. So if I'm using obstacles, like Ninja Warrior is what really elevated my practice to really the max on how I wanted to treat people, what I wanted to use. It's like using really cool, visually stimulating tools as a way to keep people intrigued. Now, if I'm just having someone pull a band back and forth, there's no fun in that whatsoever. That's not desirable. But if I have a band attached to some pole, and then I'm having you walk forward and backwards of it, or if I'm throwing a medicine ball in there, or if I'm having you balance on some sort of unstable device, there's a lot of different tools that make the brain work harder. And so you get more progress. So the more the brain has to work in processing, the better the results, right? So I've actually modified Ninja Warrior obstacles during my training. A very famous one is the salmon ladder, where you hop the bar up and down. Well, I have Ian, for an example. He stands on a pad, and since his balance is a little bit off, I actually have him take the bar off and put it on each rung as he goes up. So each time he takes it off, that's a loss of balance point that he has to correct. And for him, he doesn't really focus on the balance. He's trying to figure out, how do I get the stick on the next rung? So finding ways to distract people to do the stuff I want them to do without them knowing they're doing it. And I think that's the coolest thing, because it makes it fun and it makes it entertaining, but it also gets the results that I want. And that's where I feel like the results that I get are much higher than most, because of the way I challenge the person and the tools that I use. In addition to the other brain retraining stuff that I know with my hands-on techniques.
So take us back to your childhood. Like, talk about how you grew up. I mean, it sounds like you had a really unique parents who were making you do kind of PT in 5th grade. I mean, give us some of the background on just what your childhood was like. What are maybe some of the unique experiences of your childhood, and maybe some of your struggles too?
My dad was pretty busy in the military, and luckily he didn't put me through PT. The school actually put me through PT, but he was the one he was always real active with me. He would always ask me, do you want to go for a run? Do you want to play basketball? I think I got a bow and arrow one day, and he was always challenging me with just random stuff as a way to keep me active. And I thought that was really cool because it really gave me my desire for the outdoors as well as just for wellness, period. Also, because we moved a lot as a kid, that's where I developed more of my desire to travel and learning about other cultures. And, on the military base, you get people from everywhere. My family's from Puerto Rico, but a lot of, people in the Caribbean will get military-based jobs, whether it's in their respective country. But in Puerto Rico, it happens a lot because it's a way out and a way to support themselves. And for me, I learned a lot about, discipline was number one. Not only in the culture in Puerto Rico, but in the military, it's kind of a combo. And that really taught me a lot in the way how you talk to people, how you treat people, how you conduct yourself as a professional. There's so much that really molded me into what I am today. And not to mention my mom. I mean, she's a little 5-foot firecracker. So she made sure that everything I needed to do was done correctly without compromising myself as a person. And she's probably the one who pushed me the hardest between my mom and my dad, because my dad was always busy with military-based stuff. And, learning that, my mom having to be like the rock at the time, it gave me a lot of respect for women as well, of like, man, this girl's one tough cookie, and she's helping out with myself and my sister when my dad's handling the military part and the work part. That transformed my mind to something that I can't ever change. And I don't think if I didn't have that, I don't think it'd be as successful as I am now. Because there's no excuses for me. It's like, if I want to do it, work for it. If I'm not going to work for it, don't complain about it. And there are certain situations to be sensitive to other cases where people don't have that opportunity. But it was nice for me to have that because it set me up to provide a service to people like that.
So you have an older sister. Any other sisters, brothers and sisters?
Just my older sister.
Okay.
Just me and her.
It sounds like that was a big moment in your childhood. Were you about 16 or 17 when your sister was
16,
diagnosed?
sophomore in high school.
Okay, so you're 16 years old. Your sister was diagnosed with a neurological disorder.
At 20, I was 16 and she was 21.
Right,
yeah.
right.
Mm-hmm.
How does that change you, like, fundamentally?
Man, it changed me a lot because I felt like at the time, actually my dad was stationed in McAllen. My mom was here. She had to go back and forth to Florida. And basically I had to hold down the fort where I was at because we had like friends and family that would, watch me and stuff like that. But I felt like in that situation, I needed to be the one to really manage the situation, both from an emotional standpoint and the physical standpoint, which is my sister. So I'm like, okay, the career part, I can help with the physical, and the emotional, I have to be the one that can't be the one that's always getting sad about it. I have to be the one to pull them out of it. And I think that's how I am now. It's not that I'm like cold-hearted, but I feel like I'm usually the one to be the stronghold for most people because I know the family handles things differently from an emotional standpoint. So I felt like that's made me a lot tougher in handling like bad situations because I've already dealt with some within my family, and then as a clinician, I've seen cases very similar to that, and so it makes me kind of like that. Hey, let's ride together.
So at 16, you really had to take a lot more responsibility for the well-being of your sister. You had to kind of take on some of the emotional. Yeah,
I took on a lot of the emotional part. Basically, I try to absorb the emotional parts from my mom and my dad and my sister at the time. And she was so close to graduating. And so what really in this moment I'll never ever forget it is I realized how bad it was when she had 3 people help carry her across the stage to get her the degree or diploma or whatever it is from the college. And that's when I was like, okay, this is real. So that made me into a completely different person and really burn like a fire underneath me to really get to PT school, and that itself was a whole nother story. I mean, that how I got into PT school was just, it doesn't make sense on paper, but it happened.
Well, let's go there. Tell us that story.
Yeah, so I got out of school, and it's hard to get into PT school. It's like 5 million people that apply to school, and they only picked like 40, 45 people. And I get a rejection letter the first year. I'm like, all right, it happens the first time, and then second year I get another rejection letter. I'm like, all right, this kind of sucks. And then 2 weeks later, I get a letter that says, oh, you've been put on an alternate list. So a lot of times if people cancel out, they put these people on alternate lists. It's like, okay, I thought I was ruled out, but I guess I'm still in. And then not even 2 weeks later says, welcome to the program. I'm like, all right, well, usually there's an interview process, so I'm not really sure if something happened with the papers, but I wasn't going to say anything. I was like, all right, well, let's see what happens. And so when I got there, the typical process that you would do to actually get in wasn't the same process for me. And so there was a lot of weird stuff that was going behind the scenes that I had to say, hey, no, this is what I actually had, almost as if I wasn't even in the program. And everything got fixed up and everything worked out okay. And then I got into school. And so now I'm like, okay, now I really got to do something, because in school, if you get a C in the first semester, they kick you out. And that, between not understanding how the heck I got into school without an interview, to being pressured that first semester, and then somehow making it out, and I had like a 3.6 GPA, that whole process to get there on paper wouldn't have happened because of all of the loopholes you'd have to go through, but somehow it happened and it got me here. So I'm forever grateful, and I don't know how everything got in, but it did, and that's what happens.
Who knows why, but you got in, you proved yourself, you made it through, you became a PT. And then with Parr PT, you've got several offices now, and you're kind of expanding the program there. What's kind of in the future, right? What's the horizon look like for Parr PT, and how are you growing it?
We have 3 locations. So we have one in Austin, and we have 2 in Houston area, Katy and Richmond area. And I never really wanted to expand because I was so tight niche with what I had. And I have a good friend of mine, Renee, who had been working alongside me for a while at a previous job. And he was out of state, and when he came back, he's like, hey, do you have any work for me? I'm like, yeah, I would love it, because I was having people drive in from Houston to come get treatments. And that's how the Houston thing came about. And since then, it's like I don't want to overstretch myself, because we're both so tight niche with what we do, and we feed off each other. It's like anything that he does is something I would do. So it's really cool how that's blended in together. And my goal really is to set the clinics up, but also more so provide an educational platform versus trying to open like 10,000 clinics of people that can learn things specific to our niche, because it's not just neurological. We see a condition called EDS, which is Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and it's a connective tissue disorder that affects various parts of the body. Your skin, your organs, your heart, your brain, and all that stuff. And we're one of the few people, actually in the whole nation, that actually treat it. And so with that, in addition to the other stuff we do, again, with the sports side, us having worked with Olympic skiers and snowboarders, that's really where we created this approach called the 3 systems approach, where, yes, this approach is really going to affect this target population of chronically ill, but you can apply the same tools to someone who's on elite professional, snowboarding or ski level. And my vision, I guess, when it's all said and done, is to be able to have something in place that so many people can learn from and still apply the stuff that they learn, but to really make a change in people's lives. And I think that we have that.
So one of the things I've noticed, and this is what Ian's mom talked about too, is you think outside the box. That was her words. You really think outside the box with how you create the programming and things like that. I've noticed that you've invented a few things, even around the gym here, some devices. Talk about just your aptitude for inventing concepts or ideas or even pieces of equipment to use on your clients.
Yeah, so I'm a big visionary. If I see something, I'm like, oh, let me see if there's something in the gym that I can make for it. Because, with as many exercise equipment, there's a million things that you could do differently on a piece of equipment, right? Like, oh, if it turned this angle, it would be so much better for this muscle or whatever. And when you're dealing with, I'll just use neurological patients as an example. As you start to figure out, like, well, I need like a third pair of hands. What if I had something pull, the leg forward instead of me having to, pull the leg, hold the body, hold the hip. And that's when I got into creating certain things, until I actually created a gait trainer back actually when I was in college. It was part of a project, and I didn't want to do a research project because I hate writing and hate reading. So my other option was, hey, why don't you make a device for a patient? It's like, cool, easy said and done. So I made a component of the frame with some tubing and some straps and all that, and the hospital that I was at loved it. Like, oh yeah, you should try doing this and try doing that. So I took it, and then I was thinking more about it. I was like, oh, let me try to actually put this to like some sort of walking device. So my last rotation in school, I had a lot of extra time, and so I started putting together this Home Depot version of it. And I found, I was like, wow, this is actually working really well with the idea that I had. And after that, that's when I was thinking, okay, maybe if I can find someone to help me make this look way prettier and not fall apart. And then I had someone in a hospital see it. I linked up with a guy in California who had a prosthetic company. And so he worked with a lot of amputees, and he's like, hey, I really like this. It could work for my people, blah, blah, blah. So we linked up and we put it together. And since then, it's been working so well that now it's already been produced and we're marketing, and that we're trying to, again, that aspect of not just the theory part of what I'm trying to put together, but the physical part is how can I affect people with Parkinson's? How can I affect people with brain injuries and help others learn how to help others with brain injuries? So I ended up making a gait trainer, and so that's something that I'm a huge passion about. And the biggest thing about it is I used my sister's walker to create the first prototype. So I have the original prototype, and I link everything in. Okay, sister got sick, wanted to be a PT. She had a walker. I couldn't find a walker. I used hers. That created the gait trainer. So it's like everything around what I've done has been so centralized around my sister. That's why I hold her like as really the reason why I'm even here. And seeing everything that my sister went through in order to recover, it was over a year-long process of what she dealt with. And doctor said she would never have kids and all these other things. It'd be hard for her to walk again. And, she was actually a audio engineer graduate, and she's now a speech therapist. And because of what happened to her is what made her go into speech therapy. So again, circling around again, why I got into it, why she got into it. And, now she's, I won't say her age so she doesn't get mad at me, but now she has a kid, my niece Olivia, who just turned 7. And she's healthy, and she's moving, and she can hike, she can ride her bike. And so seeing that moment of where she started, like rock bottom, to where she's at now, really gave me that vision of, if she can do it, why can't anyone else do it? And at that point, once I saw that recovery, I'm like, all right, I'm going to make sure every patient gets to that point. And that's really my driving factor, my why as to why I'm so passionate and why I got into PT.
I know that there's so many people out there that have such a hard time, that aren't ill, that don't have neurological issues, but just have such a hard time moving and understanding like how important movement is. And what would you say to just anybody or just people listening, like why it's so important to exercise, to move, to keep your body healthy and free?
I think one of the most important things about movement is it's not just the external parts. It's really what happens internally. The hormones you release to essentially fight all the bad stuff that's going on inside of you. Helping you with sleep, helping you with digestion, all the things that people are, we are a little bit more aesthetically minded, wanting to look good, which is all great, and that goes with what happens internally. But really what happens internally dictates how you function in life. There's things that exercise can help with depression. It can help with anxiety. It can help with, chronic illnesses that typically would not be, I don't want to say cured, but managed. But through movement, they're able to manage some of the internal stuff just from the hormones that are released. And when you think long term, you think about if you have kids, if you want to, live to your 80 and still be able to surf or whatever that is, you have to keep mobility. So if things start to get tight and lock up, a lot of times bones can start to fuse and tissues can start to what they call contractures, where the muscle just doesn't lengthen any more than that. And having that mobility of reducing the chance of chronic pain, reducing the chance of chronic illnesses, that all goes together is why movement is so important, because it really is what drives you to live a happier and healthier life.
So, what is the biggest mistake of your life?
Well, I've made a lot of mistakes, but I think for me, I'm so type A and I'm such a go-getter. And like if I want something, there's absolutely no one that's going to stop me, not even like my family, friends, loved ones. And I think that's where I didn't have as much of a healthy balance with separating that, like being able to still have drive and passion without compromising relationships, friends, families, and loved ones. So I would say that's my biggest mistake that I've made, but I'm glad that I made it because it's allowed me to change the way I think, to change the way I do things. And I think if it wasn't to that extreme, I probably would have a little bit more bias towards work versus family. And now that I've experienced basically hitting the wall, I now understand, I gotta check myself on this. I have to set boundaries. I have to show or give more of the people that I love my time and just get that time back and be able to cut it off like, hey, this is what I do. This is my passion for what I want to do to help people, but this is my life. And I feel like now I have a better view of that given some of the things that I've dealt with over the past few years.
And talk to us about legacy. This is a question I ask everybody at the end. 75 years from now, I got to say 75 because if I say 50, you're still going to hardly be alive. You're a very healthy guy and you're young. So 75 years from now, okay. The idea basically after you're gone, like what do you want the legacy of Jonathan Parr to be?
That people understood where my heart and my mind was at and the change that I was trying to make in the world. Hoping that I made a big enough change and provided tools that when I'm gone, it continues to basically bless other people or pay it forward to everyone else that's in need. And really to know that I never half-assed anything in my entire life and that anything that you got from me, I did at 100%. And I think if my legacy is that regardless of things that I did wrong or things I did right, I think people knew that I was always all in.
I love that mindset, Jonathan. Hey, thank you so much for your time. Listeners, for more information on Jonathan Parr, go to parrpt.com. That's PARRPT.com. And again, if you were inspired by Jonathan's story, I invite you to share it. Find somebody you know who needs to hear Jonathan's story that would be inspired by it. Thanks again. That's a wrap.